Hello. Today I'm going to talk about public finance, and if this content, if this topic doesn't interest you, I can completely empathize. Bye bye. But for those of you who care to stay for a while, they might not be totally disappointed by the end of the video. Actually, for myself as well, even I find it difficult to change gears from esoteric sciences to the reality that's economics, which is a subject that I have majored in. And after every few days, when I have to give myself a reality check, I try and delve into all these real stuff, the earthly stuff, and it is challenging for sure. But when I connect it to in some way, when I connect it to uh, some mythological stuff, or I won't exactly say when I connect it to is esoteric, but yeah, when I connect it to something bigger than what we see, something more than what meets the eye, then it gets slightly better. Actually, what happened? I had to. There was a quiz that I attempted, and there was a lot of questions connected to public finance. And then I realized that this could get so much for the students who do it round the clock. Even I have done that, but then a couple of years have gone, and I'm free of that structured syllabus. I take up I take up things when I want to. So a lot of introduction. So yeah, so when I was doing public finance, studying public finance syllabus, there were certain things that came to my mind, and the first thing was that when I imagine how heaven is, I'm talking about our mythology, Indian mythology, and we have certain uh, gods and deities. We see them abundant. I'm sure it's with every god, every culture. I'm talking about just mine because I know more about this one. So where does abundance come from, and where does lack of abundance come from? So here you are, if you can see. No, maybe. Just a moment. वैसे तो it won't make a difference. It won't make a difference because I'm going to speak about it. So what's abundance? Abundance is when the inflow is more than the outflow. That'll cause abundance. There's no other way um, to make abundance happen. And when can inflow be greater than outflow? When the production is more, when the resources, in fact, when you have abundant resources and an eye to recognize resources, pretty much like how in Arab countries they were basically into uh, they were shepherds until Western world showed them what they had: black gold, petrol. Okay, so you should have an eye for recognizing the resource that you have, and for that you need to have a creative, innovative mind, and I guess to an extent intentions to do better, ambitions to do better, pure intentions. Okay, so resources should be abundant, and then after after that, when you have resources, production should be more than consumption. So, and of course you should have a well you have to have a good strategy. Sounds semi okay, semi good, but strategy is not a bad word. You should know what path you're going to take, and if that path doesn't work out, you should have a plan B. So that just makes us more secure. That's it. So how can and why in developing or underdeveloped countries abundance is missing? That's because the consumption is much more than production. And the consumption is more because there's so many people to feed. So when you have so many people to feed, so many people to look after, no matter how much resource you have, they are all going to evaporate. So yeah, that's one red flag. And then when you have wasteful practices, when you don't care, when you don't realize the usefulness of a resource, uh, and you just blow it away, you squander it. That's when that's a wasteful practice. And then mismanagement is that you're not able to realize the potential of the resource that you have. And finally, no, it's not actually not, the list can be very long, but yeah, for now, I can't see. Yeah, wrong allocation. You are allocating money or your energy, your attention, your focus on other things that may not yield. And of course, in developing countries, there's one more problem, and that's too much mental unrest that manifests into 3D reality. And we have a lot of people having conflict with each other. And when it comes to outflow, or inflow, actually falling short of the outflow, it's not just one reason. In usually in uh, places of deficit, it's all reasons. They're all there. So as they say, when it rains it pours. So let me take in the example of my own country. In varying degrees, they're all there. So how is it connected to divine thing? You'll know. You'll know. All right. So I often see I often see people placing too much uh, attention and too many expectations on. They start expecting too much from the government, and government is just an industry. It's an administrative industry. It's nothing more than that. And since we need somebody to organize things, and these are the people who come forward and say, okay, we'll do the bad job, which turns out to be a good job, more often than not, they get power, fame, money. And yeah, so this is what a government is all about. So if we all know that the whole economic system started with barter system. If you've got something that I don't, I will exchange it for something that I have and you don't. So with time, of course, when I did not have things that you were looking for, and there were many of my sort, so currency and coins were introduced. Obviously, it was the government, it was the administration that organized minting of money in a more structured way. But even if government wasn't there, even if there was no government in the picture, things coins will still come into the scene. Currency would still be used, but it would be much more haphazard, and organization would have taken a longer time. So let's say I myself don't okay. So when I was comparing economy and the administration with with the divine realm. So let me talk about mythology a little bit. Um, it's just not in the government or that we see there are a lot of decentralization, a lot of layers, a lot of levels. Even when you read scriptures, and I'm talking about Indian mythology. We have one Durga Saptashati, where the gods are disheartened because the demons have taken their job. So who are these gods? God of fire, water, ether, air, and so on. So everyone out there, if we feel that this is a creation, obviously there has to be a creator, because creation doesn't come on its own. There has to be a creator. If there are laws, there are lawmakers, and I heard it somewhere, so I'm quoting that play I'm quoting the line that they said. I heard this particular line in ISKCON sermons. So there has to be a creator, and those creators also disseminate work, and different work is given to different people, as in not maybe in the way we see ourselves, in whichever form, in whichever mm, yeah, in whichever form. All right. So what is the currency that we have? This is just a by the way kind of a thing. I was thinking, what currency are we sent with on this earth? We're sent with time, and how we use it, and whatever map we have that we have to wade our way through, is something else. That's something else. All right, just like there are three types of major gods that take care of, or one god in different manifestation, they take care of creation and preservation and creative destruction, or in other words, destruction. But it's never destruction, it's always creative, in the sense because something else is created in place of something else which has outlived its utility. So Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, three gods, or Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, as we know. All right, so preservation and creation, it requires resources. If we want to, suppose you are in the government, you have formed a government. Now you are into power. You will do creative destruction in form of instituting new policies in due course of time. But as far as creation and preservation is concerned, you require resources for it. And where does that resource come from? It comes from two ways. In English, there are two words. These are just English words because they may not convey much. Fiscal and monetary. So, what are these? So it's hardly visible. I completely understand if you can't see. I can't see because my eyesight is weak, but if you can't see, I can understand that as well. One day we will all will stop seeing things totally, because we are YouTubing quite a bit, and I will post this video on YouTube. Okay. So, where was I? Fiscal. Yeah, fiscal policy. Just don't see it as fiscal policy, monetary policy. Just see it as a way to garner resources. What do? You are into power. Now you have people to look after. You are doing job for the people, so you will take money from them, obviously. In what way? Taxes. Taxes would be in direct form, indirect form. Direct form for people who can pay. All those people who cannot pay, but they are still availing what services that you are rendering. So they will be paying indirect taxes, which would mean that whatever goods and services that they, public services and goods that they buy, they will have a part of it would contain your cut, your commission. So fiscal, one way is that you get money for growth of the place that you are chosen head of. That's fiscal policy. So that's, and you use ultimately for creation. Okay. Another way that you could do things is by stabilizing. You can stabilize things. So that's more of preservation, and that's monetary policy for you. So, what does growth mean? Taking taxes? using it for people, in form of government spending, and taking debts from people in form of post office. There's so many schemes also running. Okay, monetary stability in the sense how much money supply is there in the market. Is Do you have to back it up with gold still? Not any longer, but part of it. Suppose there's 100 rupees that you have to print. Some amount, let's say 20 rupees of it, has to be backed up by gold still, and the rest can be backed up by some reliable currency. Most people in most countries back up their currency by dollars, euro, and so on. So that's not going much into detail. Otherwise, what will be the difference between the textbook that you already read and they are written in a much more, let's say, in a much more boring way? Not all, some of them. uh yeah, so it takes care of how can you, how and what happens when you print too much money. When you print too much money, but it is not backed up by equal amount of economic growth, what you get inflation. So if you have printed 100 extra rupees than what was required, and the number of output, units of output, are not there, they're still as it was, as they were, and they are not 100 more. That 100, uh, they would still, be sold, but in some extra. No, I said it all wrong. Okay. um Suppose previously 100 units were produced and 100 rupees were minted by the government, and now it has minted 100 more rupees, but the number of units are still 100. So those 100 units of produce would still suck up that extra 200 rupees in the market, and that's when inflation happens. So that's inflation. Hmm? But it erodes the purchasing power of the people, so it's not something that the government looks for. So it reduces the, it tries to curb the inflation by reducing the interest rates. And then there are open market operations. Okay, so this is what it is. So basically it has to create through fiscal, and has to, so you are in the government. When you take over, you want money, you take taxes from people, and do work for people. So you are not doing it out of your own bank account. Second, you create stability by uh, by managing things better. That's monetary policy. Okay. mm, so this is the last bit. You make money by taxes, you make money, um, what is written? Okay. Second way that you can make money is by keeping production in your own hands, manufacturing in your own hands of those items in which you can charge people whatnot. Like after privatization, liberalization in India at least, mm, most private units can manufacture anything except for fields like um, petrol, gas cylinders, ammunitions, and all those things. But I don't think India produces all that. So let's just say the gas cylinder now is costing 1,010 rupees the last time I purchased it. And I've heard that it costs to the government the total of less than 100 rupees. Just the production bit. Actually, but when it gets natural gas from other countries, and then So that there's a lot of economies of scale that is happening, that a private individual, if we decide that we are not going to buy it from the government, we won't be able to do it. So in that case, we end up paying for petrol, end up paying for natural gas. So this unimaginable profits in these fields. The third way is schemes. We have post office schemes, we have pension fund schemes, and so on. And the money that they get, because after they have taken extra, they've sopped up the money, the excess money through taxes, and then through the stuff that they manufacture, whatever else disposable income is left, they try to get it through these schemes, and they put it into speculative activities, pretty much like you and me and everyone. So that is put into mutual funds and equity market, bond market, etc., etc. So this is how an individual would function. This is how, I guess, the divine beings function. Uh, they look after they look after the beings, and they are given some department. They're excessively good in their work. They're too good. And about the remuneration, there is no remuneration required if you have everything. Imagine that you are in a job that gives you heaven to live in, and unlimited life, and unlimited beauty, unlimited abundance. What else do you need? And you would be demoted if you get more greedy. You will be sent on earth. You will say, no, 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 no. So this is what it is. If I have I written anything else? Yeah. So coming back to earth, because that's what we have to do. We have to live here. If you see any government trying to create money, how would you litmus paper test it, whether it is good? If you see that a government has come into power and is trying to create growth by by investing into something long term, with that would really reduce cost of so many things. So the cost of supply would come down, of things like creating best of infrastructure, lot of manufacturing units and all. Then then just be on a lookout. Whatever government that you have chosen, if it has worked in terms of consistent rise in the manufacturing sector, you can put a stake on that government in the for the next term. And as for the supply bit, the preservation bit, I was saying, wealth cannot be created. One thing that you need to remember is wealth cannot be created uh, in form of currency. How can it be created? The only way that perhaps you can change things a little bit is to create natural wealth. So also, see, it may sound fluffy, but then it is what it is. It is hardcore. It is one best way to test a government. If it is placing enough adequate focus uh, on increasing the forest reserve, increasing the area of forest and green cover, and putting adequate amount in on education and health of people. But what about developing countries? How can they put adequate emphasis on education and health of people? Health, of course, hygiene can make a lot of difference, and it doesn't cost a thing. Second thing, okay, I heard something. All right. All right. The second thing is education. So, education can be improved uh, by maybe scholarships, scholarships, free meals, giving transferring direct benefits to one child in the family. So in that way, producing unlimited children, seeing them as investments, because every child would go out and work, that would also come down. So in that way, the population can also come down. So that's one thing. So all right, so let me summarize. If the government is if the government is creating long-term assets, and there is considerable rise in the manufacturing rate in the country, it's good enough. If it is placing enough emphasis on education, natural reserves, um, health of people, it's good enough. And as for, have I written something else? No, this is pretty much it. And you can, I just lost some light. All right, you can pretty much do it for your on an individual level as well. When you buy things, when you spend money, make sure you spend less on pomp and show and more on long-term assets that can fetch some liquidity uh, or security for yourself and your generations um, to come. And then second thing is that build on natural wealth. So wherever you are living, just make sure the surroundings are covered by by a green cover, and you plant trees. Even if you don't see any short term benefit of it, the long term is going to be so amazing. And okay, don't produce a lot of children, because and some of us will have to forego producing children altogether, because you have to reduce the number of consumers, because that's what heaven is: abundance. Abundant is heaven. We've got to create abundance here, because there's no, I don't know whether we can ever graduate to that level. So we'll have to create our mini heavens in this world. I guess the video has already gotten very long, so bye bye.